What a beautiful kitten. Too big, too small. What kind of thing should go on my Facebook page? Ooh, Taylor Swift? Wait, no, I gotta do stuff. We gotta talk about things. We gotta get off of this Facebook page and talk about biomedical ethics with you. Hello, and welcome to week 5 of biomedical ethics. I'm so sorry that this is coming up a little later than the other lectures, but as I told you in my emails, and you can probably hear from my voice, I'm recovering from laryngitis, so I wasn't able to record these lectures. So I'm Dr. Gross, and I'm your professor, in case you forgot. This week, we are moving on to Unit 3, Medical Professional and Patient 2. As you know, the last unit had a similar title, Unit 2, Medical and Professional and Patient 1, and covered the topics of paternalism and patient autonomy, truth-telling, and confidentiality. All of these topics are highly charged in the realm of biomedical ethics because we often run up against competing ethical principles. For example, in the case of paternalism, the principle of beneficence runs up against the principle of autonomy. This week, we are moving on to a similar but different topic in the same area of bioethics. So, bioethics, chapter 5. Informed consent. That's what we're talking about this week. I'm sure you've already come across this concept at some point in your life. As you know, you should read chapter 5, and I suggest you do so soon. The main reading is on pages 228 through 240. There's also a video that I'd like you to watch, and the link is available on the Canvas page. It's only 2.5 minutes long, and I suggest you pause this video and go ahead and watch it. So, Canvas page, you can't see this yet. It's going to come live as soon as I put the links up. But the video is right here, Legal and Ethical Aspects of Medicine, Consent by Dr. Nelson Chan, MD. Okay, let's move on. Informed consent. According to Vaughan, in general, informed consent is the action of an autonomous, informed person agreeing to submit to medical treatment or experimentation. It seems pretty straightforward. People should know what they're agreeing to, right? But as you know from the chapter, that's actually really complicated. It's an ethical as well as a legal concern, as written on page 228 and reproduced in this slide. Informed consent is considered ethically necessary by those who follow the principles of autonomy and beneficence. So, it's an ethical ideal in which physicians are obligated to tell patients about possible medical interventions and to respect their choices regarding them, and is a legal requirement compelling healthcare professionals to disclose information about interventions to patients and obtaining their permission before proceeding. So again, ethical doesn't automatically equal legal, and legal doesn't automatically equal ethical, right? Often those things overlap. In the case of informed consent, they do. However, there's some problems with the concept of consent that are not immediately clear. While it is a great idea for someone to know exactly what they're consenting to when it comes to medical treatment, many people may be incapable of truly understanding what it is that they're actually consenting to. The video you watched discusses the case of a 10-year-old boy with a broken foot. He may understand well enough the concept of a broken limb and the need for a cast, but he probably doesn't have the tools needed to understand the implications of having surgery under anesthesia to fix that broken foot. Here are some conditions of informed consent according to Vaughan. 1. The patient is competent to decide. 2. She gets an adequate disclosure of information. 3. She understands that information. 4. She decides about the treatment voluntarily. And 5. She consents to that treatment. So, competent, disclosure, understands voluntarily, and consents. Let's look at the first on the list here, competence. It is the ability to render decisions about medical interventions. What about those who are unconscious or incompetent? Vaughan continues, individuals who are incompetent cannot give their informed consent, in which case the burden of decision-making falls onto a surrogate, often a court-appointed guardian or a proxy selected through the patient's advance directive. Or, like a baby, their mom or dad or parent takes care of that, right? So competence is a very important concept. Informed consent, another slide that says the same thing. As Vaughan notes, it is important to keep in mind that what actually constitutes informed consent is very much not entirely clear and can be very situation dependent. This slide contains a general overview of what courts and legislatures generally claim to be necessary to be disclosed to patients. The nature of the procedure, the risk of the procedure, the alternatives to the proposed procedure, including the option of no treatment, and the expected benefits of the proposed treatment. Page 231 has an in-depth box that focuses on how to assess a patient's decision-making capacity. We will return to this section in your discussion board for this week. So, assessing for decision-making capacity involves determining whether a patient or subject is psychologically or legally capable of adequate decision-making. This capacity relates to the specific medical decision at hand and does not imply a global ability to make any or all decisions about healthcare or other matters. If individuals lack decision-making capability, they may make decisions that are contrary to their best interests and thus need to be protected from harm. It's kind of like paternalism, but you can see where it's coming from, where the principle of beneficence is coming through here. If decision-making capacity is intact, the physician generally should respect that patient's choices. There are two ways that informed consent can be circumvented, or can and have. I'm just going to say there are two ways that informed consent can be circumvented and ways that may be problematic. There is a waiver, in which the patient's voluntarily and deliberate giving up of the right to informed consent, as well as therapeutic privilege, the withholding of irrelevant information from a patient when the physician believes disclosure would likely do harm. So your assignments for this week, I want you to read Informed Consent 228 to 240, watch Legal and Ethical Aspects of Medicine and Consent by Dr. Nelson Chan on YouTube, and then you have your discussion boards. And again, this is week 5, in case you're accidentally watching this early. Here's the prompt for your discussion boards. In part 1, you must read one of the additional readings given at the end of the chapter, and which I've assigned. In your OP, you must provide a brief overview of your reading and answer the assigned questions, and the OP is due Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. You must then respond to one post from each of the readings you did not yourself read. Connect to the post to the reading you did for this week. Be sure to respond to the people who respond to you. These responses are all due Friday at 11:59 p.m. In part 2, you must provide an example of a specific medical case that involves issues of informed consent. You must provide a link to the case, like an article or something, and explain how it is an example of this ethical issue. You must read at least 2 cases that your colleagues post on and comment on them, and these posts and replies are also due by Friday at 11:59 p.m. Let's look at the website for a quick minute. So, we talked before, I sent you emails about this, but I wasn't able to provide a lecture about it because, again, I recorded the week 4 lecture like during week 2, and then all last week, and then most of this week, my voice has just been a mess. So I wasn't able to, and actually my voice ended at the end of week 2 as well. So I wasn't able to update you like verbally. But you'll see that starting in week 4, I split up the discussion boards. I put you into groups, and I split up the discussion boards into part 1 and part 2 because I felt like there was so many posts that were happening that it was difficult for you and also myself to keep track of who's saying what. And this way, when you click on the discussion board, you should be able to see. So you've got part 1, you can see everything. But you'll notice that, so everyone's assigned a different reading, but guess what? It's like there's method to this madness. There's only there's not really any overlap between readings. Maybe sometimes like if you're in that group of 7, then like 2 of you might do the same reading. But for everybody else, like there's like 1 person per reading in the group. So you're kind of like engaging with this material with each other in this one group. So the things that you read will inform your future writing, but you'll also read what other people have to say, and maybe you'll be interested in reading that more for future essays. So you can see here the normal stuff for this assignment. You'll be posting replies, and there's 3 discussion board groups because, again, you're pretty meaty sized people. There's a whole bunch of us. So this way, and there was not any method. I actually randomized the discussion board groups. I let Canvas decide who is in what. So I hope you're nice to each other. I hope you're kind to each other. I haven't. So obviously it's Wednesday when I'm recording this, so I haven't looked at or haven't been able to grade your paper or your week 4 discussion board. So we'll get there. We'll get there soon. Okay, so I think that is enough for now. I hope you enjoyed my little song at the beginning, but this recording kind of starts at a weird time, so I have to do stuff for a little bit that's not on the midterm, So because sometimes the recording cuts off. So that's all for today, and I will see you online through writing, I guess. Okay, bye.